All right, so we need to know what an allotrope is, and you really need to know what an allotrope is, because I'm pretty sure it's a test question. They are two or more different molecular forms of the same element in the same physical state. So, same element, same state, but they have different structures, and because they have different structures, they have different properties. So, two sames, two differents. Same element, same state, different structure, different properties. This would be, or an example that we have, are the allotropes of carbon. These three things, diamond, graphite, and buckyball, are all made out of carbon and only carbon. Buckyball is a short name for what it actually is. So all of these are made out of carbon. Now, the two that you know, a diamond and a graphite. Graphite is what you are writing with right now if you're writing in pencil. Okay, we call it pencil lead, but it is not lead at all. It is graphite, and it is made only of carbon. And a diamond is made only of carbon. Yet, these are two very, very different things, aren't they? All right, so the difference is the way that they are bonded together. A diamond has three-dimensional covalent network where it's carbon bonded to carbon, and it forms that covalent network. Much, much stronger than what happens in graphite. Graphite, you have carbon bonded to other carbons, but they're like in sheets. And the sheets are just kind of stacked on top of one another, only held together by intermolecular forces. And now that works out well when you're using a pencil because it leaves part of your pencil or part of that graphite on the paper, although they are easy to break. I always break the pencil, especially out of those mechanical pencils. All right. Again, carbon, only carbon, but because they are bonded differently, they have very different properties. A buckyball is a Buckminster fullerene. It's actually the longer name for that. And it is carbon 60. It is 60 carbons bonded in a sphere. We could not figure out exactly how that structure happened. We had a lot of scientists working on that. And we've gotten a carbon 60 from meteorites, and we were trying to figure out what the structure was. Some scientists were working on this, and one of the scientists just needed to take a break. So he took his lunch break and went out to a park. Now this was over in Great Britain. And the park he happened to go to had a structure on there, and it's just an artistic structure, probably about as big as this building, at least tall. And it kind of reminded me of the Epcot Center. Okay, so it's a round structure. And when he saw that structure in the park, he was like, I wonder if that's how the carbon's bonded. Went back to the lab, and it worked. And so they named it Buckminster fullerene after the architect who designed the building in the park. And that's how it got its name. Now, it doesn't really have a use yet. Again, we have found it from meteorites. We know it does exist in other places other than Earth. They've tried different things. I've seen where they've tried to isolate the HIV virus by surrounding it and putting it into this buckyball, but nothing has necessarily come from that. But they're still trying to find a use for it. All right. Those are your allotropes. You need to know what it is, and you need to know that example. Okay, now we're going to talk about changes of state. A lot of these you already know. And the best advice I have for you is to think about water, all right, when I ask you these. So, going from a solid to a liquid, what is that called? Melting. Good. What about going from a liquid to a solid? Freezing. Okay, and you know it doesn't have to be cold to freeze. Just generally what we associate it with. Okay, this next one is one you may not know, and it is a solid to a gas. This is what dry ice does. It is a form of vaporization, so it is making a vapor, but it has a very specific name. Does anyone know? Sublimation, all right? It sublimes. And I'll try and bring in some dry ice tomorrow, and we'll look at that and watch that solid sublime. It goes directly from solid to the gaseous phase, does not enter the liquid phase at all. So it's one of my favorite science courses. All right. Liquid to a gas is evaporation. Again, both of those are forms of vaporization. Now, I say evaporation there because that can happen at any temperature. At boiling, that's when it has to be at a specific temperature. But evaporation, you can go from a liquid to a gas at any temperature, and it's called evaporation. The next one, gas to a liquid. Condensation, good. And then the last one is gas to a solid. This is the opposite of sublimation. And this, again, may not be one that you know, but I'm going to see. Okay. It is called deposition. Basically, the gas deposits a solid. You may have seen this if you have like an old chest freezer at home. It will get caked up with ice crystals over time, and every once in a while you have to empty everything out and defrost the whole thing to make that stuff go away. Because every time you open it, you're introducing water vapor from the air in there. It gets really cold, and it goes directly from a gas to a solid and develops as ice crystals. Some of you, or all of you probably, will be going to college here in either the next year or so. And you're going to get one of those little refrigerators for your little dorm room, and sometimes it even has a little freezer in there, and that freezer is worthless. Let me just tell you, that thing will not freeze anything except itself closed. That is what it will do. And again, every time you open it, water vapor from the air gets in there, and it will deposit it'll go from a gas directly to a solid, and you'll get just this big giant block of ice crystals, and you have to chip through it to try and open up that freezer. It won't make an ice cube. It will make itself an ice cube, but not an ice cube for you to use at all.
That's how ours is. We have one in the bottom basement, and it's just pretty much frozen shut.
Yeah, and it's from deposition. All right. Now, I will tell you, college, you have roommates and things like that. Sometimes you have good ones, sometimes you have bad ones. I had a nice string of bad ones. So I had the person I got paired with when I first went to college was a sorority girl. Oh my gosh! And that didn't work out so well. So I moved into a friend's room because her roommate didn't show up. And I was like, yeah, rooming with a friend, this is awesome. Not awesome. Girls, I will tell you this right now. And I said specifically girls, do not room with a friend when you go to college. They will not be your friend very long. It'll be great for like a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months. And then it will turn sour, and it will be bad. Alright? So you want a nice, clean acquaintance. This does not apply to guys. Guys, they can get mad, and then they solve it, and then things are good. But girls, you know how we hold on to grudges forever, and it just doesn't work out so well. So I moved in with this my friend. She went to class for I'll give her 6 weeks. She went to college for classes for about 6 weeks, and then she just stopped going. And so she just stayed up in the dorm room and smoked cigarettes all day. All day. Now, and her mom was a single mom, and there were 3 kids in college. She was the youngest. She was put on academic probation, came back for the next semester, and she's like, I'm really going to do it this time. I'm going to go to class. And she went 2 weeks, and then stopped going. And so her mom paid for a year of college. She had nothing to show for it. Nothing. And she was not invited back for the next year. She also, there were lots of other problems. She was also kind of like dirty. Like she just was not very clean with her stuff, and a lot of it was my stuff, so she got my stuff dirty. Like she really did not like to wash dishes, so she would just put dirty dishes in my refrigerator so they wouldn't go bad. She did that over Christmas break, but at Christmas break, when you go home for college, they cut off the power to everything. So not only were the plates nasty, but then when I came back, the entire refrigerator was gross because it had grown stuff from the plates. She was smoking cigarettes and like ashing in some of my Tupperware. And in college, Your Tupperware is what you like. You eat out of that. You store food in that. You cook in that. I mean, that is just that is what you use for everything. And she's ashing her cigarette into it. So I just moved the Tupperware out of the way and moved that ashtray underneath her, and she went, and it was over. I lost it. I was so mad at that point, and I kind of let her have it. She's also ended up being a little bit of a kleptomaniac and would steal stuff. She had a great job at a really cool store you could walk to. It was right across the street from campus. And she would come home and have all this stuff. And I was like, I thought you were trying to save up money. She's like, I am. And I was like, how did you get this stuff? And she's like, they gave it to me. I'm like, they did? She's like, yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. She stole it. And then she got tired of working. I know that's a big shocker. And instead of getting on the phone and calling up her employer like a big girl, she took her arm and beat it against the table until she had a bruise from her wrist to her elbow. And then made up this lie about how she was attacked on the way to work.
I thought you were going to say you attacked her.
No. Some random person attacked her on the way to work, and that's why she wasn't at work that week. And then she just never went back. And so I got when you go off to college, you get a little 2-drawer filing cabinet. It's not for files. It has a little lock on that, and that's what you put all your stuff if you don't want other people to take. Just saying. Now, how I got my last roommate, this is the one that worked out really well. I went into the student lounge at my college, and I said, yeah, anybody need a roommate for next year? And one girl that I had a class with was like, yep, I do. And I was like, awesome. And that's how I met the last roommate. She was the most sane roommate I had. And she was nice when I was around. We would hang out, and then it's like, oh, gotta go. She's like, bye, have a good time. See you later. And everything was fine. So you want a nice, clean acquaintance, not your friend to bring with. Just my advice, all right? You can try it. Okay. So anyway, deposition. That's what's going to happen on the inside of your college refrigerator, and hopefully nothing else. All right. Let's see. All liquids freeze, but at different temperatures. Even antifreeze freezes. Seems weird, doesn't it? But all liquids freeze. And some of them freeze at higher temperatures than water. Some of them freeze at much lower temperatures than water. Let's see. Antifreeze. Where does that go? In your car, yeah. Where in your car? Yeah, what part of your engine? In the... Oh. It goes in your radiator. Okay, what does the radiator do? No. What does your radiator do?
I don't know.
What is your radiator full of? No. It'll have some of that in there, cooling in water. Okay? So the water's in there to cool off your engine because moving parts produce a lot of heat, and the radiator has the water in there that moves throughout the engine to cool that, to transfer the heat and cool your engine down so it doesn't overheat. And that's what happens in your car. If it does start to overheat, there's usually a problem with your radiator. Okay, the coolant's not getting to it. It's very, very important that the water in your radiator not freeze. Number one, if it freezes, it could bust open your radiator. And then you're not getting coolant, so your car won't work, and you have a busted radiator. The other one is you could have a block of ice in your radiator. Again, if the water's not moving, it's not cooling off your engine, and your engine's going to overheat. Now, you do not, and so you put antifreeze in there so that it lowers the freezing point so that that water does not freeze. We have different antifreeze here in the south than they do up north because we don't get the really, really low temperatures that they do up there. So they have different grades of antifreeze. Let's see. What's the other thing I was going to say about antifreeze? Okay, yeah, it can freeze. I don't know. I can't remember what it is now, but yeah. So that's how your car works. Oh, I know. If your car starts to overheat and you see that little needle going to H, what do? Pull over right there. There you go.
Stop,
all right. Without Just like she answered that, without thinking, you pull over and stop right then. This is not, oh, I can make it to a gas station, or, oh, I can make it home. No, stop then. Because if you don't, you can really, really hurt your car. All right, beyond whatever the problem is that's causing it to overheat. You're going to make the problem way bigger and way more extensive. All right, so there are your car lessons today. All right.
Just stop it as hard as you can until you see how fast you're moving.
All right, now phase, uniform composition and properties. I have changed the state there. It sounds very permanent. I really like to call them phase